type Istanbul apartment for sale, there are thousands of questions coming up.
You can buy an apartment for around $100,000.
Even less than that?
Even less.
Even less than that.
You walk down to the seafront and the same size apartment is probably $3 million. So this is Istanbul. The uniqueness of it is certainly its location, that there's only one Bosphorus in the world.
Welcome to another episode of Straight Talk. We are here in the Istanbul office of Property Turkey with Cameron Deggin. And today we will be talking about... What are we talking about, Cameron?
I think what you were telling me this morning is that you'll be asking me off-the-cuff questions.
Yeah.
Well, frequently asked questions about Turkish real estate. The most generic types of questions that people ask.
Exactly. I mean, here's the thing. When I go into Google, type Istanbul apartment for sale, there are thousands of questions coming up.
True.
So what I thought is that if these are the most frequently asked questions, if we answer those questions, we would then automatically answer the questions that thousands and, tens of thousands of people are asking.
Of course. I mean, I think there are 20, 30 rather frequently asked questions, which are mainly around the process of purchasing property, the costs, the process, and things like that.
Exactly. So let's start with the first question.
Okay.
How much does an apartment cost in Istanbul? Now, this is a...
How long is a piece of string?
Well, yes.
Where do you start? But
Sure.
but the funny thing is, we get inquiries like that.
Yeah.
And as you know, we receive inquiries through WhatsApp. Mm-hmm. And when we receive these inquiries through WhatsApp, we can't see what property they looked at.
Yeah.
People probably think that we can, but we can't. So we get a question like through WhatsApp, how much does a two-bedroom apartment cost? Question mark.
Exactly.
I'm like, where?
Yeah. Yeah.
How big?
Istanbul,
what kind of an apartment?
Istanbul is a city of 20 million people. So
Exactly.
a
Istanbul
two-bedroom apartment can worth, listen, $10 million, a two-bedroom apartment. You can say, what we call a yalı dairesi, a flat on the Bosphorus. True. And it might cost as low as 50, 60, 70, 80,000 US dollars.
Well, I mean, okay, statistically speaking, you can pick a decent quality two-bedroom apartment in Istanbul from as little as $70,000.
Where in Istanbul, though?
Exactly. Well, that would be on the outskirts of Istanbul. Places like Esenyurt, Beylikdüzü, Silivri, maybe Başakşehir, parts of Bahçeşehir, Tuzla, Pendik. Mm-hmm. So these are kind of the real outer belts of Istanbul, where if you drove any further, you'd be departing Istanbul.
True.
So you're looking at about an hour by car from Istanbul center. And if we were to take Istanbul center as, say, Şişli, where our office is.
Yeah.
So in these areas, you can actually pick a one-bedroom apartment from as little as $50,000, a two-bedroom from $60,000, $70,000, $75,000. Decent quality, earthquake compliant, new builds, rather luxurious, with some desirable facilities too.
Yeah.
So from that, and if you come along to the Bosphorus, areas like Bebek, some parts of Beşiktaş, or across the water, across the Bosphorus on the Asian Anatolian side, maybe Kuzguncuk or some nice area like that, you can pay up to $5-6 million for a two-bedroom apartment on
Just
the Bosphorus.
Just an ordinary two-bedroom apartment,
on
90 to 100 meters square net.
I mean, obviously, it's not an ordinary apartment.
Of course. I mean, with that extraordinary view.
If you're paying $5-6 million for a two-bedroom apartment, that certainly is not an ordinary two-bedroom apartment.
True.
It's a unique two-bedroom apartment. Uniqueness of it is certainly its location, that there's only one Bosphorus in the world.
True.
That separates two continents, Asia and Europe, and that's Istanbul. So if we're on the Bosphorus, we'd end up paying millions of dollars for a same size apartment.
Let me ask you this. How about a luxurious two-bedroom property in central Istanbul, but in places like Shishli or Bomonti, where we are.
Not,
Where does the prices
not the
start
most
from?
expensive areas.
Not the most expensive area,
desirable,
but very good, luxurious central
let's put it this
Istanbul
way,
properties.
desirable areas.
Yes.
2-bedroom apartment in a desirable central area in Istanbul would start from around $250,000.
Yes.
However, the interesting thing about Istanbul is you could walk as little as 20 minutes and the price could go below $100,000. For example, in Nişantaşı, a nicely well-presented, nice 2-bedroom apartment could easily cost you $400,000 in Nişantaşı, $500,000. From Nişantaşı, it's walkable to Kağıthane, and you can buy a 2-bedroom apartment for $120,000, $100,000 even in Kağıthane.
Massive difference.
I mean, you see the spectrum in Istanbul is rather wide.
Yeah.
And the distribution, the price distribution of Istanbul is geographical as well as street by street. Because Istanbul developed rather rapidly. In 1963, Istanbul's population was 3 million people.
And today?
I believe it's around 18 million today. Now, if you compare this growth to, say, London, do you know what London's population today is?
Over 10 million?
London's official population is around 10 million.
Okay.
Istanbul's population grew by 6 times in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
So obviously, this results in some haphazard developments.
Yeah.
This results in...
Istanbul, the authorities in Istanbul didn't even have time for city planning and etc.
Well, exactly.
We have this phenomenon called gecekondu.
Gecekondu.
Yeah, overnight home.
Built overnight.
Yeah, built overnight, overnight homes. And you used to have a lot of those in Istanbul.
In Turkish, what we call gecekondu is slums, basically.
Shanty towns. Slums,
Shanty towns.
Yeah.
So the thing is, we still have quite a few shanty towns in Istanbul. And these shanty towns can very well be located rather close to some of Istanbul's most expensive districts.
Once they are regenerated.
Look at Bebek. Look at Bebek.
Yeah.
Bebek front line, Bosphorus line, is arguably Istanbul's most expensive square mile. Okay?
True.
Bebek. All you need to do is drive 2-3 minutes up the hill in Bebek and you have a shanty town. You walk down to the seafront in Bebek and the same size apartment is probably $3 million. So this is Istanbul for you. This is why when we get inquiries like, how much is a 2-bedroom apartment in Istanbul? I just start laughing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm really laughing. Yeah. And I say to myself, or if I allocate that lead to one of my guys, I would call the guy and say, look, you're dealing with with an individual here who clearly does not know Istanbul that well. Forget about talking about property at all. And this is what I say to my guys. The last thing you should talk about is property.
Yeah.
You should just talk about Istanbul, Turkey, lifestyle,
makes sense of the city,
the geography of the city, what it was, what it is, where to live, where not to live, the social aspects, the cultural aspects. Again, I mean, we need to have a half an hour discussion before we can even start talking about where you should buy. It depends on what you want.
Yeah.
It depends on what kind of environment you want to place yourself. If it's an investment, then the answer is slightly different. I'll use the word cheap, although it's a cheap word, I'll use it.
Yeah.
Don't go too cheap, but don't go expensive either, because if they're expensive in inverted commas, then I don't really see a massive growth in the next 5 to 10 years. Affordable luxury is the segment to buy. So if you're buying in Istanbul, look at Regeneration areas in central Istanbul.
Are you saying that the central Istanbul, the capital appreciation in the central Istanbul is much higher than the outskirts?
Look, there are a lot of people who would argue against that. Our audience would have most certainly come across many other consultants who would very strongly suggest that, they should buy in places like Başakşehir or Esenyurt or Bahçeşehir. I'm not knocking those places. But in my experience, and not just in Istanbul, centers always appreciate more than the suburbs.
True.
I would advise investors generally to look at central locations that have not yet gone up in price. And the beautiful thing about investing in Istanbul real estate is that we still have quite a few of those districts in Istanbul. But in 10 years' time, you won't be able to.
And that's also going to be very, very hard in 10 years' time.
Exactly.
Let me ask you another thing. Since we're talking about the cost of buying an apartment, what are some of the cost of purchases? And also, what are some of the ongoing costs, the sort of like the maintenance and the tax and etc.?
The main incidental cost of purchase is the stamp duty, which is 4%. It was
so 4% gone up to 4% over the value of your property.
Over the declared value of the property. The declared value. That's the value that you declare at the title deed office when you're buying the property. Our audience should be careful that to make sure that they understand this, because the price you pay, which is the price of the property, is not necessarily the amount that gets declared on the title deed.
Why is that?
Well, people under-declare for tax purposes.
For tax purposes.
And these under-declarations are commonplace on the south coast of Turkey, the place in the sun. The developers you're dealing with are smaller developers, small to medium-sized entities. And they notoriously under-declare. Now, under-declaration is not necessarily a massive, massive problem for you as a buyer, but if you are looking for citizenship by investment, it could be. Because the $250,000 required amount is the lower of valuation and or declaration. So if the declared value on the title deed is $100,000, the valuation may come up to $250,000, but the valid figure is $100,000. So if you are applying for citizenship by investment, you have to make sure that you know how much will be declared. In Istanbul, this doesn't tend to be the case, because majority of the developers we work with in Istanbul are large-scale developers that are heavily scrutinized by audits and by tax compliance, etc. So they can't really under-declare. Their hands are tied. They're larger organizations. But in smaller towns, that's commonplace.
Buying an under-declared home can also present problems in the upcoming years. If you were to sell that property, you will pay higher capital gains tax if you you fully declare your property.
Hence the roll-on impact. This is what I said. It starts with the developer, because if the developer under-declares, then you
have to under-declare.
You will under-declare too when you are selling, because you don't want to pay so much tax, etc. So it triggers off. It's like a domino effect. So 4% stamp duty on the declared value. That's the great chunk of your incidental costs of one-off purchases when you buy, one-off costs. 4%. On top of that, if you're using a lawyer, there are some lawyer's fees, legal fees. Could be anything from $1,000 to $1,500. If you're applying for citizenship, it could be up to $3,000 for the full service, which is a very reasonable cost. If you are buying a resale property, especially on the south coast of Turkey, generally you'll find that your agent will charge you a commission. Not so much in Istanbul, because the culture in Istanbul, the business culture in Istanbul is not to charge a commission, because we earn a small commission from the sellers, whoever they are. So we tend not to charge commissions to the buyers. And I don't think we are alone in this. I think a lot of other agents do the same thing.
Most of the
Some agents I hear they charge the buyer also in Istanbul. We don't. But on the south coast, we tend to earn our fee from the buyers. Why? Well, because a lot of the sellers are individuals, and they're not really used to commercial buying and selling, so they're not in the business of providing commission to anybody. So, we need to earn our living, so we tend to charge the buyer. So generally, when you charge the buyer, the maximum amount you will charge is 3%. So the maximum potential incidental cost of purchase, if you are paying the stamp duty in full, plus the 3% is 7% on top. Once you have purchased your property, you have obviously ongoing costs. What are these? Well, there's the insurance, the DASK insurance, which is, in short, natural disasters insurance, earthquake, fire, etc. DASK insurance in Turkey is like that.
It's nothing.
It's like $250 a year, something like that. On top of that, if your property is located within a complex, then there is IDAT, which is the maintenance fee. IDAT actually means monthly. Direct translation of IDAT is monthly.
I means month.
Means month. IDAT means every month.
True.
So it's basically what you pay every month. And that very much depends on the grade of the complex you live in. Okay? So in Istanbul, say, that could range anything from $30 a month up to a couple of $1,000s a month.
If it's a very, very
If it's a very,
project,
very luxurious, very high-end development. The average is around between $70 to $100 a month. That's the average for a luxury complex that has plenty of facilities like underground car park, valet service, security,
pool, hammam,
reception,
sauna, etc.
fitness, and all that.
Nothing.
It's nothing.
How much money do I need to live in Turkey? Hold on, let me say a few things about this question.
Yeah, further qualify the
Okay,
question.
let me
Like,
further...
put it into context. You have kids, and if you do they go to school? You know, these types of things.
So I have 2 kids. They're
Yeah.
going to Turkish schools, good Turkish schools, and I live in Istanbul, and I have a family.
You live in Fethiye, which is a lovely place.
Very lovely.
Husband and wife. You have already paid for your property, so you're not
Yes.
paying rent. But you have 2 kids who go to state schools, good state schools. They've already learned how to speak Turkish, but they also have English curriculum at school. $1,500 a month will give you a very good lifestyle with 2 kids.
For a family,
Yeah.
above $2,000.
Yeah, but above $2,000 will give you a pretty decent lifestyle. And the thing
Well,
is,
of course. I mean,
you got to put that into context. though.
If you're on a budget, see, that's how. Okay,
What's
this
the
question is
minimum,
exactly
minimum
like
legal salary in Turkey?
it's around 2,500.
It's about $500, isn't it, per month?
Yeah, less than that.
So basically, if you need $2,000 a month, that means that your lifestyle is twice over and above the lifestyle of the husband and wife who are earning the minimum wage in Turkey.
True. It all depends on if you know your way around the city. If
Yeah.
you know your way
Yeah.
around the city. If you, for example, go to Taksim and eat on Istiklal Street, you're going to pay double as
True.
you were to eat 2 streets behind Istiklal
Well, it's the
Street.
farmers market sort of mentality that
Yeah.
we talked about. I mean, you can go to Carrefour, you can go to Migros,
Yeah.
and you can do your shopping basket. You could possibly do the same shopping basket for a quarter of the cost at the farmers market,
True.
and fresh, organic.
For example, t-shirts, clothing. If you
Yeah.
go to Zara, you're going to pick this up for 70 Turkish liras.
Yeah.
If you go to bazaars, here, there, I'm not kidding, 10 Turkish
I
liras.
know,
10
I
Turkish liras is
I know.
$1.5 or something.
I know.
So that's the answer of that question. Okay, thank you very much for staying this long. We try to answer some of the most frequently asked questions on Google. If you have any questions, please, with this WhatsApp number, reach us, send us your questions, and we'll try to answer your questions. And until then, see you in the next episode.
See you in the next episode.